do you say there, man?
There he is. Dude, you got a serious goatee going.
Oh, listen, I will assure you that this little whatever it is that I experiment at this point, this time of year, will be the least talked about beard tonight.
This 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 act of rebellion.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, I'm not a sharp dressed man. Uh, I
Yeah.
my
I think
legs are not what they used to be.
oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, all you need though is some cheap sunglasses.
All right, there you go. That would help.
I mean, I'm not gonna quote Tush.
Or oh yeah, they're my
Yeah, there's others I won't even say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're but my our grandson likes Rough Boys, likes the
Rock
song
Boys.
Rough Boys.
Like, is that
Yeah.
Pete Townsend or is it the
Well, he did a version, but ZZ Top did a version. It's really mellow and it's really cool. And
oh,
I don't know, it was on my YouTube history, and it came on, and he just found a liking to it, and kind of
interesting.
yeah. YouTube with him too is funny because that's how I have to entertain him for a full Tuesday and a half a Thursday, and YouTube comes on, and whatever he's into, they go to into the commercial part of it, and he's like skip, skip, like skip, skip, and I was like,
Oh,
oh, yeah, skip. So, uh,
so
yeah.
it's the one grandson, right?
That's it.
So tonight, before this call, I got a FaceTime request from my son down in Florida,
Okay.
which I know what that usually means. It means, he wants to, it's the kids that want to talk, right?
Love it. Yeah.
And so, I picked it up and there's little Rhea, and she's just very excited to see me, I thought.
You thought. Okay.
And then she said, "Where's Lala?" So I think what happened was Lori didn't answer her phone, and therefore I was the best way to get a hold of Lala. And so I had to hand my phone over for the next half hour to Lori. It's my phone. I had to give it up and so I said, Lala, don't you want to talk to Gramps? And she said, Nope, I want to talk to Lala. Like, oh
All
man,
right. Well, she wants to talk to you. You're a very close second, no doubt. And
I'm sure, but here's the thing. They get to a certain age, I'm going to dominate over Lori because you can't compete with what Grandpa brings to the table. You can't, right?
yeah, I I spoil him too. And listen, I look at you and I think, how could any young grandson? It sounds weird to even say about you, but look at you and think that you're not anything but the super coolest hangout. So
Yeah, yeah. When my grandson Bennett was here, actually he just turned 4 maybe a week ago. He was 3.5 maybe the last time he was here. I took him to Dinosaur Land, and we went down to the lake and looked at fish, and then we went for ice cream. So,
oh,
come on
wow.
now.
I
It,
still have never taken Brooks away from this house. Like I'm still kind of keeping that in, like keeping my powder dry to do that.
oh,
Like
yeah.
go to McDonald's or, for pancakes somewhere or whatever.
Well,
But
once
yeah,
you open Pandora's box,
yeah, exactly.
it's open. So,
Banging at the glass like bacon, bacon, bacon.
no, he made Lori take him to Dinosaur Land the next day.
Made it.
Made her, yeah, made
Yeah,
her take him, yeah.
it could be relentless. Yeah, just like skip, skip, skip.
That's
So
funny. Hey, let's do something real quick
yeah,
before
yeah.
David Thompson joins us.
David Thompson, man, he's pumped up. Yeah, he's been for this is gonna be
Love
good.
it. I love it, right?
Yeah.
He's uh he's one of us.
He's he knows the secret handshake and the
Yeah.
password.
Here
Back
we are, point well taken. That's us.
it is.
Just wanted to take a quick look at our list here, real quick.
Yeah, I love your pride in all this. Like, I love the fact that
Yeah.
when you text me and we have text exchanges with people here.
My
Many of
phone
them
is
you
full.
know, some you don't, and then but
Yeah.
you have a way of engaging with folks that start before it, are uh, built during it, and then extend afterwards. Where yeah, it's cool. Yeah, look at this. It's cool.
This is very cool. And
Yeah.
so then this will be episode 13 of season 2, if you can believe that.
Yeah, and 15 is the finale, as you
Yeah, so
framed it, right?
we got to pick one more person here
All right.
uh,
Well,
to to meet.
okay. Well, David's coming on tonight.
David's tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a shout out here to Nancy and Linnea, and I've talked to Nancy here, and
Yep.
I feel like I'm really excited to talk with them because although I didn't know them as well as you did because I was in Alaska in '85, I think you
Yep.
were there before that summer, and I came midway through '86. I just found them both to be really this word like representative. I
Yeah.
mean that in the best way in terms of like I found out after the book came out, like I underestimated Pennsylvania. And I found out Nancy was from uh, New Jersey, went to school in Pennsylvania, but so many people were from Pennsylvania, but their experiences, like we didn't, our jobs or whatever didn't necessarily coincide with theirs to hang out free time, but um, they're two people that I'm excited to catch up with, and
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that I'm just throwing that out there because Bob Ballman, yeah, this is Tim Sandoval. I've kept in touch with everyone here. Are folks that I've thrown out a rope and they've said
Yeah.
yes. It's just a matter of not if but when.
Yeah. I think we've got other folks we've actually been chatting with that will
Hmm.
add to this list once they commit.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, yes, you said pride or proud. I'm very proud of this list. I think it's a lot of so many great conversations you can look back on, and I've actually gone back and started watching a couple of them
Yeah.
just to reminisce because they're just really fun
They
conversations.
really are. And Tom, I have to give you so much credit because I'm looking here, like my eyes are scanning this list. I'm looking at Jay Briggs. I've been friends with Jay since the I don't know, fifth grade or whatever, and
Sure,
went through camp. And when we talked with him and I watched the episode, I learned things about him I never knew. I
that's awesome.
believe it, and I learned about everybody here, things that I never knew, and I can't wait
Yeah,
to build on that. But you're right. It's a good pride to for us to have had those conversations and learn from them and build on it.
yeah. I'm really happy with what we've gotten done so far.
Yeah.
David
So,
Thompson.
yeah, iconic
Let's.
Camp family. Is he in the waiting room or
He's ready. He's ready.
is Cheeves taking care of him or lemon water or
I
whatever?
did. I put wallpaper up in the waiting room, so
Right. Right.
he's
Let's get
he's staring
going.
at the he's staring at our logo. I think.
Uh,
Let's get into it.
yeah, he's ready. He's said he's
There he is.
in his Washington D.C. office.
Major.
Morning project.
Oh, there it
Oh,
is.
I thought we were supposed to drink. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I got my
we were like,
Rhinestone t-shirt.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
I'm
in
a
my
little.
teepee clothes.
All
I got
right.
like a hiking shirt on. I'm really
Yeah.
impressed.
Did you guys give me an amazing introduction, or like, is this gonna be? Do I need to do this myself?
You'll,
I'm
yeah.
Oh,
good.
we will corroborate. Yeah, like
Nice, nice. How we
yeah.
doing, fellas?
Yeah, doing great. Tom, listen, like
Yeah.
we've talked about the folks we've had on and from, where they're from and everything. This is coming straight from our nation's capital. David he stayed in his office doing the work for folks and
You know, work for the
right,
American
man.
people.
You are not, you look great and but not but bad from what
Nobody says that. Nobody says that with his beard. Everybody's like, "You look." What do
Oh,
your
I
wife
love
think
it.
about
Yeah.
that? That's usually usually what I get.
Yeah,
If I
Beth
could do
Markel told me last night to remind you. I told her that we were talking to you. Told me to remind you of a haircut that you inspired her to have. So anyway,
I watched her thing, and I was I got to be honest. I wouldn't be terribly upset if everybody forgot about that haircut for the rest of time. Yeah, I don't even know where that idea came from, but it sort of, I don't know. It seemed fine at the time. It was fine.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I was in high school.
yeah. Look at you, man. This is
Are you're working in DC, but you don't live in DC? I thought I saw Annapolis.
I live in Annapolis, yeah, which is about
Okay.
40 miles east of Annapolis, or Washington.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, my
commute in
son.
every day, which is,
I love Annapolis. My son lived there for a while, so I've been there.
you're kidding me.
No, and I'm not that far away. I'm in Virginia,
Oh,
uh,
whereabouts?
near Front Royal and Winchester.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
so David. When my cousin Bob Van Wicklen was living in Annapolis and
I
working,
love Bob Van Wicklen.
you guys were connecting there, right?
Yeah, he worked for a guy named Amo Houghton
Yeah.
from yeah, Bob was a good dude. He was, but I've kind of lost touch with him. I have no idea really what he's doing. I
I
get on
can.
Facebook for not really to pay attention to what most people are doing because
So
Yeah, I could fill you in on that, and he would love to
it's
connect with
not terribly interesting. I mean, it's just
you.
occasionally you see a picture of somebody. But I do, but the Camp of the Woods staff page or whatever that one is that Kim Hawks
Yeah.
seems to moderate. That's the one that gets the most attention.
Shout out to Kim. Good stuff here.
yes,
Yeah, she was a great. Yeah, that was a great conversation with her. So, if you were not gonna be scheduled to talk with us, like David, how would you have gotten home? When would you have left? Like you're still there, but
Um, I'll make a joke about my profession first, and then I'll. So that I'm a lobbyist. I worked
yeah,
on Capitol Hill for almost a decade.
okay.
In a personal office for a member of Congress, but then in the Speaker's office for maybe 4 or 5 years, I guess it was. And then I do what every other congressional staffer does: is you leave and become a lobbyist. You don't make a lot of money on Capitol Hill. It's really interesting. You you meet fascinating people, including Ralph Larson, who came in to see the speaker one day. I was like, hold on a second.
All
Ralph
right.
Larson, Johnson and Johnson. I know this guy.
Did you connect with him and
I
connect?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Talk about your
I was like,
cabinet
hey,
work.
I'm Norman Maryland Thompson's kid. He's like, oh my goodness.
Oh,
And
awesome.
he was the
that's
CEO of Johnson and Johnson,
Yeah.
not a slouchy little job. But just that Camp of the Woods connection, man. I remember Ralph Larson. I'm how we got into Ralph Larson so quickly, but him sitting on the beach down kind of where all the trailer park folks were, sort of in front of Wigwam, what was Wigwam.
Yeah.
And he would wear this kind of polka dotted like conductor's hat, sitting in a beach chair, and then I don't know. I loved the kind of the regularness of people at Camp of the Woods. They were, everybody was just sort of
Yeah.
person of a person up there. They were not a big wig. They were maybe in a big wig, but they're just kind of just normal people, and
Looking to get there and just be
Yeah.
part. Yeah. Chill and maybe hear some grounding words and right. Yeah.
Well, all right. So to answer your question, Donnie, it's Donnie. It's
Oh, sure.
just like I know Jim Hammond is Jim, but I'm not sure it's not Jimmy. It's
He
still,
doesn't go by Gordon though.
I
he
Don't do
does
that.
not.
no, Gordon was called before me, a few decades before. But Jim, yeah, I in the couple times I've been with Jim Hammond, I think I called him Jimmy a couple times, and then I was like, wait a minute, he's director, and
He
I'm
may not like that anymore.
yeah, I'm in front of
Yeah.
the folks at camp, and he may have established a way for them to address him, and yeah, you're right, but you're so conscious of
The old
don't be
names
with
just
me.
the
That's
old
not,
names just sort of flow
yeah,
back.
Don
To
or
answer the
Donnie, and
question,
yeah.
I'm a lobbyist. I would have left at probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon if I could have. So and just headed back home. But it's
Yeah.
almost not worth it because I compete
Okay.
with a ton of people driving that way. So it's easier either you leave at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or you leave at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So this is not that. It's just not. I often stay late for events. There's events
All right.
after
So
after hours.
this is an event,
This
like
is a big event. This is a big event.
yeah.
Well, this is the
Yeah.
event of
Well,
2025. I don't know.
awesome. Well, you're one of your texts was like, "Let's go," and like that was
Let's
enthusiasm. I told
do
Tom, like,
this.
yeah,
You
I
have
loved
no
it.
idea how I love this. I could if this lasted for the next 9 hours, I would be like, oh wait, guys, I still got a couple more things. We still got
All
more.
right. No.
I like Camp in the Woods. I like talking about it. I like thinking about it. I like
Yeah.
looking at old pictures of it. When we come across them, my parents have this box of photographs that just piled into a box, and you come going through them, and all of a sudden there's like, what that is a picture of so and so in front of the teepee. Like I could have take pictures of them and send them out to my sisters. I mean, it was just
I love
Well,
it.
you just validated for me, David. Tom and I were doing some prep, before you, and he does, some research. We talk about the person that we're going to talk with.
I
If
stalk you. I typically stalk somebody so I can
yeah,
get some
do I have
information.
much of a I don't I do I have much of a footprint?
No, you do not.
it's a very smart
As it
footprint, but
should be. As it
yeah,
should be.
and
Yeah.
but we'll say, in terms of my personal connection with the person, and well, pictures are always great, and I could tell that Tom was getting a little concerned, like we were talking about, pictures that we could build on, and I said, look at, David, from my connection with you this summer, and recent talks, I said, no worries. The reservoir is deep. We can just go. Pictures
Yeah,
are
let's
cool,
do
but
this.
they're not. Yeah.
I wasn't
Do
worried
this.
I wasn't worried for content. I just like some visual interest, right? Something
Oh,
to look at
Yeah.
besides me.
I sent a number of pictures.
yeah,
Some
they're
of them
great.
are
We'll get to
maybe
those.
I don't know. Some of them I actually don't. There's one of me and Dougie Schoen, which I look surprisingly beefy, and that's being like a complete opposite.
That picture is gold. I love
I
that
am
picture.
the
Yeah.
skinniest thing imaginable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beefy.
Doug needs to see that picture.
Who does?
Doug needs to see it.
Oh, he's
There's another one of me and him down near the tennis courts, and I'm like flexing. I don't know what I'm flexing. Nothing is the answer to that. But it's Doug there, and he's Dougie. I went to college with him at Taylor. We were together at Taylor, so yeah, I love me some Dougie Schoen, and it's Dougie. It just that falls out of my mouth still.
When's the last time you talked with him?
Um, no, I don't. Not too long ago. I texted him about something.
Okay.
I think of him every year on August 5th, which is his birthday.
yes, it is.
I think of it. That is ingrained in my memory because we always had a party.
All
For
right.
Dougie Schoen.
David, we're gonna get into some questions here, but I need you to help me with something. So
Yeah. What's up?
the only relative of the Purdy's that we've had on here is Don Purdy, right? He won't.
Wait. Oh, Uncle Bob.
Oh, you're right. We had
Oh,
your Bob.
yeah.
Okay. Other than Bob Purdy, we haven't had any other relatives, Shones or Purdy's or Johansson's or Van Wicklin's, right? So don't you think it'd be very interesting to have those people on as well? Could I
Uh-oh.
ask you to lobby
Am I,
for
step,
that?
am I stepping between you guys? That's what it feels like right now.
Could I ask you to lobby?
Yes, Tom, I think it would be really interesting. Johnny, I'll get back to you later. No, do not. I think it would be. They're foundational for
Yeah.
at least the sweet spot that I think we're all in, which is I'll, I'll say mid 70s to 91, 2, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little early, maybe that's a little late, but at the very least, the 80s.
You got the range.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, I think,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. Dougie Schoen and I caused a lot of problems. Got ourselves into a lot of trouble, and we were yelled at by a lot of people who are not even one of our parents, and we deserved every single bit of it. There was none of it that we were like, well, I don't. Where'd that come from? We knew exactly where that came from and why it happened.
Yeah. So maybe Tom, you've got the great agenda going here, but maybe because your family was really so integral in camp, and I've told Tom before and others that like what I knew because being there all year, summer all the way, fall, winter, spring into the next summer, like it felt like when the Thompsons and the Stroobs arrived, it was like game on. Okay, these are families that were there to give so much of themselves. They all, had roles that were prearranged, but they were all there to just give of themselves, and there was so much joy in seeing that. And but maybe take us back to what your memories are of how it is, as early as you can remember, that you were coming to camp from Ridgewood, New Jersey, right?
Ridgewood, yeah.
And Jimmy Olsen remembers you, and
Jimmy Olsen. I used to. His parents lived right across the street from my what we and they call it middle school now, but it was junior high at the time.
Yeah.
And my parents they bought me this this Schwinn 5-speed bike.
Oh yeah.
But my parents were like, "You can't park it at school. We're gonna park it behind the Olsen's house." So I rode my bike to school every day, and I parked it behind their house and locked it up, and then walked across the street to Benjamin Franklin Junior High. Going up to Camp of the Woods was at the end of the year. I had maybe my aunt used to get us all a subscription to Ranger Rick magazine.
Oh yeah.
And every year there was a calendar in there, and I hung it right next to my bed. And I had the date that I was very particular about, and still am, about certain things. And I'm like, when are we going to Camp of the Woods? What is the day we leave to go to Camp of the Woods? And that was circled on that Ranger Rick calendar. And it was about 200 miles, I think, Ridgewood from camp. And that it felt in my little 6, 7, 8-year-old mind like it was 1,000 miles and 2 weeks to get there, and we just couldn't get there fast enough for me. And I would see. I think Dougie was usually there by the time I got there. It would have been unusual for him to not be there, I think.
Makes sense for a little bit before. I know your parents had major roles. But Doug's. Uncle Doug was music director, and so we would a little bit before,
Yeah, well, we'd get there, and instantly you want to go and jump in the lake, and I did, and it was probably 40 degrees outside. I mean, it was cold, and I'm like, this is what I do, but I don't know why I did that. Ended up with 105-degree fever somewhere in the infirmary. It was my dad was a teacher at Ridgewood High School for a long time, teacher, and he coached the varsity basketball team and the junior varsity football team.
Okay.
And eventually he started working for Pepsi Cola through another Camp of the Woods connection, the Trillets. And I don't know how they knew each other, but Arnie Trillett was maybe they were up in the trailer park, perhaps. I don't know. But so the best three things about teaching: June, July, and August. Um, my my dad was the rec director there for a long time,
Yeah.
and then he became the personnel director um, for 1 or 2 year, 2 summers. I don't remember how many, but it was yeah. So it was kind of, I mean, like a bump up in responsibility.
Yeah.
But everybody kind of knew him because he he was the typical rec director making the announcements from the stage
Right.
and the jokes and whatnot. And my dad told a pretty good joke.
Yeah.
Um, and then eventually my mom became the hostess up on the dining room up on the hill
Yep.
and did that for a long time. And I
Yeah.
remember her sitting down and taking in all the requests for people to sit together. And yeah, that was
Yeah. She was the face of the dining hall, basically,
yeah,
in terms of the
she had some good she had
Okay. I'm sitting here getting so jealous of you at this moment because I'm just understanding this now. You were at camp all summer because your parents worked on staff and brought
all
you.
summer.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Tom, you
I'm
and I
trying to
don't
tell you,
really know
Tom.
each other,
Yeah.
Tom, but
yeah.
it was, I think, maybe 13 or 14 straight summers that we were up there, including when I was then old enough to work on staff. We were there kind of playing and just kind of riding our bikes all around. And then eventually we worked on staff. I was a terrible staffer on every level. I was so bad at being a staffer at Camp of the Woods. Like some of my major, I have very few regrets in life, but sometimes the way I behaved as a staffer
I love that.
will start bubbling up like Thompson. Just when you think that you just remember you are a punk.
You know, you said that to me in an email last summer, and it's funny because that was not my impression of you. That's not how I labeled you.
Oh
Um, and
Yeah.
I guess you did a good. If you thought that was the case, you did a good job of hiding it because I just
yeah,
thought you were there. I knew that
sometimes
your folks were integral in.
they
Uh,
were amazing. My mom and dad are awesome, Donnie.
yeah, in
They were
leadership
great,
and
and they're very Scandinavian, all in.
yeah.
Nothing slipped. They
And
were really
Yep. And I'll say this on record. Your sister Karen, I think we were about the same age, but
yeah.
every time she came to camp, I always looked at her like, how are we the same age? How is it? She is way beyond me, like in terms
Ah,
of her
Karen's cool.
elegance and her
That's called the gender
intelligence,
gap.
the way she handled herself. Yeah, whatever the normal gender gap is, like I just looked at her and like you're out of my league. You are so far ahead of in the way you carry yourself. Wow. But
We should
Karen,
let's
yeah.
get into some questions because you're starting to get into ones that are on our list here.
Uh-oh.
David, you've seen a couple of these
Yes.
podcasts. Okay. So you know what
Uh-oh.
this is about. This is all about making Mrs. Purdy happy.
Okay.
Dave,
That's very important.
David, she knows. Oh, listen.
Wait a minute. Which Mrs. Purdy? I know of
Good question.
Well,
I
so
don't think it's Amy.
no, he hasn't met Amy. Maybe, yeah, he will. But my mom, by the way, before I cannot let this slide before whatever else we do tonight. But she was excited that we were going to talk with you. And real quick, a story I have to share is that your mom invited us to go to New Jersey, knowing that we go to New Jersey regularly because we had family in Rivervale. But she's like, come out for, when you go to next time you're in Rivervale, let us know. We're going to go out to dinner. So I guess I was in third grade. So I guess maybe David, that would be a couple years behind me. And she was like, okay, we're coming out, but my kids have the chicken pox. And she's like,
Oh,
"Oh, definitely bring him over then." So your mom said, "Bring us over because we had the chicken pox." She wanted you to get them all, and
oh,
you all did. And then
oh.
you were like ahead of the chicken pox wave or
Well,
whatever.
that's awesome
Yeah.
because I
So, yeah.
I got a big wheel out of getting the chicken pox. I got
All
that
right.
was thank you. I wondered what the catalyst for that was, but I'm like I really want a big wheel.
Oh,
The
that
the
is
chicken pox is what got me there. So
Okay. All right.
sweet.
Yeah.
that is what an awesome story.
Yeah. So,
Hilarious.
That's
okay.
very funny. That's
Yep.
very funny.
All right, we're gonna tackle a couple of these. I think you were starting to answer number one. Oh no, number two. What jobs? What jobs do you
Um,
have?
I was in the dish room. I
Okay.
have brought a dish. This was the last dish off the line. I don't know what year it was. Um,
That is
but that is I was like, you know what? I'm keeping that.
that is
And
just why didn't I keep stuff, Don? I should
Yeah,
have
Nate
kept
I
kept
don't know.
the
I got
Nate-
sticky fingers sometimes, so
yeah,
I
Nate Forrester kept the
Okay.
part
but
of
there was
the
nobody to tell me no. So
Yeah. What did Nate keep? He took
a
some
part of the rope
for the
of the
bell.
bell,
oh,
and
the
then like
bell.
part of the high chair that was up there somewhere. Where yeah. Anyway, yeah. This
The
is
booster chair. Yeah, he
yeah,
kept a
yeah,
booster chair.
yeah. A dish.
Um,
I got nothing. Yeah.
so dish room. I did dish room. Maybe one. I don't know. It may have been one summer. I don't even know who else was in there with me. Maybe actually, you know who I think was in there was Jeff Eldridge,
Yeah, yeah. He was a local guy. Yeah,
local guy, yeah. And he was one of my roommates. Super nice guy, just
a
really.
townie, as we say. Yeah,
What's that?
he was a townie, as we say. As
Tony.
I
Yeah,
was
that seems like
Exhibit
such
A
a
of that.
it's
Yeah.
like such a major thing to call somebody the day. I'm like, okay. Um, I did rec staff one summer, but kind of focusing on the tennis courts, and I was so bad at that. I can't underscore how bad I was because I really just wanted to fart around for another summer up there. But I had to stand there, and whether anybody was there playing tennis or not, and we ran the round robins, and I don't think I was. I don't. I would actually say I was. I think I was particularly ungifted at that job. But I'd be fine at it now. I think I did that, and I
Well,
worked.
your dad was a heck of a tennis player, right?
Oh, he's a stud. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was a stud. Yeah.
yeah.
And then I also did. I was Woodlands busboy. I did busboy at Woodlands Dining Room. That was pretty decent money because that's where you just had people who wanted nicer accommodations
Yeah,
staying.
yeah, yeah.
And it was I don't remember. Oh, you know who what is his name? Steve. He married Jill Twerdock. Steve,
Oh, oh man. I'm
such a funny guy. He was great. Steve, maybe it'll come to me, but probably not.
somebody
Uh,
here listening, please chime
Yes.
in with because that is
yeah,
really like I mean I remember that, but yeah, can't.
yeah, good dude.
Yeah.
I don't remember though. I don't remember the girls that were working down there with us.
What year was that? Do you think it was?
Probably probably 87,
87. Okay.
86 or 87, perhaps.
Amy did it in 88. Yes, so that was
Um,
before.
there was
Yeah.
a woman, the woman that was the hostess. Carolyn Schoen, Aunt Carolyn.
Yeah.
Everybody's aunt and uncle. Aunt Carolyn was I think always was the hostess of the dining room down there. I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
But
Yep.
then there was a different lady this year, and at one point, this is where I get when I say I was kind of a punk. At one point, it I think she wanted to compliment me. She was a very nice lady. I just was not a very nice kid, and she said, "David, you do really great work. Your attitude stinks, but you do really good work." I was like, if that sounded passive aggressive, it's because
Could
it
it
was
could it
passive
be
aggressive.
Steve? Steve Mulbach.
Steve Novak, that's it. Oh, yes. Tom Orser with the
Wow, well done.
with the deep get.
Sounds right.
Great guy. Great guy to work with.
Okay.
Great guy to work with.
Yeah, I remember it. Wow.
Okay, so those are my jobs. Those are the jobs I did.
All right, here let's do number 3 and 4 here, right? So you tell people stories about your time at camp. What are the types of stories you tell them? I'm gonna take these off screen. I'll come back to the questions, but I like
Okay. Yep.
it's easier to see.
Yeah.
See the
stories that I tell. There was one only because it was so astounding that it happened right in front of my face. And this is Dougie, back to our boy Dougie Shaw.
Oh, it's a Doug story? Fantastic.
He could be a little reckless at times. And he had gotten a brand new Huffy, like BMX looking bike for his birthday.
Okay.
He had also gotten a knife for his birthday. And we were sitting on the steps of the field house before. This is pre added on Sanju complex.
Yeah.
Metroplex. It was and he said, "Hey, you want to see me pop my tire?" I'm like, "I'd like to see that." And he took his knife out and popped the back tire of his brand new bicycle. I'm like, I don't think he didn't mean to do it. I think he was gonna get close. And I laughed so hard at that. I mean, I laughed so hard at that. I don't know why that struck me as so funny, and it still strikes me as funny many years later.
It's like,
yes, he just stabbed it. He just stabbed it like he meant to do it. It was awesome.
you realize he had no bike.
Do you remember they would do open house up at Boys Park? And I loved living in Boys Park, and I hated it. I had some pretty decent roommates. I was roommates with Dave Hughes and Paul Voltmer. Were the three of us were together in a room on one side, and but every once in a while you'd have an open house with girls could come to Boys Park, and there was one cabin that just didn't want anybody to come in, so they took a pair of underwear and swiped it in the mud and hung it on the door, so nobody would want to go near.
Yep,
and it worked. That may have been Tom Orser's cabin for all I know.
I don't think I ever stayed in Boys Park.
I got you an exemption, Tom. That was
thank goodness.
One of the cards that I passed out.
Yeah,
I didn't pass out many, but
it was
David,
like
did you have
a third world country?
Did you have any rock wars?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of course, I know.
Absolutely.
I do not understand throwing rocks at each other.
No, I don't either. No, it feels very Middle Eastern. It did at the time. and I remember chucking a rock and just thinking that's gonna hurt. Oh man, I don't think I ever hit anybody, but I just remember thinking this is
gonna hurt.
So dumb. What are we doing? But we were doing it.
I'm just picturing Boys Park. Don, I would never want to be in Boys Park with a rock war when Scott Olson would be around.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, right. It's like a cartoon. They go through one wall, then the other, then happen. Right.
Well, and I don't think he plays by any rules, if I remember. So there would be no safe zones. There's no, I'm out. You would get a rock.
Uncle, nope.
Yeah. No.
It took me a long time. So I work in Washington, D.C. now. I've been in Washington, D.C. for 30 plus years. Okay. I don't know how long it took for it to occur. The bathroom up in Boys Park was referred to as the Oval Office.
Okay.
And there was a sign above the door that said the Oval Office. And it occurred to me, I don't know, after like year 10 of working in Washington, D.C., I was like, I think the bathroom in Boys Park at Camp of the Woods is named the Oval Office. Huh. Interesting. Here I am in that city, but yeah, I mean it's
ironic. Yeah,
kind of get some of the same work product, if you know what I mean, out of both of those Oval Offices.
Yeah,
not the current one. That's very clear to say that.
Oh man.
Not a political show.
Good. All right, let me look at.
Yeah.
So you read Don's book.
I
Uh,
read that book in almost one sitting. That thing I bought, I saw it was going to be published, and I think I immediately ordered maybe four books.
right instantly, maybe
One for
more,
myself,
but at least right out of the gate, you
one
emailed
for
me, and I hadn't heard from you, and you were so pumped up. And it was one of the things when you're looking for validation when you put something out, and I get not only that email from you that you wanted to order, but that you sent me a whole list of memories that it triggered. I was pumped up for days about you reaching out to let me know that. I gotta say.
Yes. So
good. That's
tell me
great.
some of those. Tell me some of those memories that were triggered. That's question 4 here.
Well, it's I ended up buying one for Karen, my sister, older sister, my younger sister Jennifer, and then my mom and dad. And they've all read it, which is cool. It, it there are I know virtually every name in the book, which I like. It's fun to read about people that you know, and you know what they were like at the time, and you remember the stories. I'm not saying that this was 30 years overdue, but this was. I would take 79 more volumes of books like this.
Oh.
And I really appreciate that you. I mean, this was probably a lot of work, Donnie, and I get it.
Yeah.
And it was probably helpful. It was cathartic. It was fun. It was a little of everything. It was probably a pain in the neck at times. It just there was not one particular. Actually, there was one kind of particular thing, which but it forced me to think back. When I look back on the stuff in I've had a really good life. My mom and dad have been really good parents. We lived overseas. We lived in Hong Kong for a year with the Bechtels.
Oh wow.
We lived in Athens, Greece for 3 years when my dad was working for Pepsi Cola. And my parents were super intentional about traveling around Europe, and they took us everywhere they could take us. Any kind of break that we had, we were somewhere up into Europe or down to Cairo or whatever it was. And
You're saying down to Cairo. We occasionally went down to Gloversville or Utica. Like,
it's the same. Dude, my next door neighbor in Annapolis is from Gloversville.
oh no way!
No way.
Wow.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
I walked out with the Charlie John's T-shirt on.
All right.
The guy said, like, yeah.
That's the Charlie Johns I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was very fun. So their in-laws are in and out all the time, my neighbors, and they are all from upstate New York, all from the Gloversville area. So
Cool.
but one of the main things my parents did for us was took us to Camp of the Woods. They worked there. Now they go. My mom's parents were campers, and they were actually starting in the 40s.
Really?
And then my mom worked on music. My mom and her brother, my uncle Steve, worked on music staff up there. So then we worked on staff there, and two of my 4 kids have worked on staff there.
That's
And
Great.
this book, a reason I just could barely put it down. I put it down because I had to go to work the next day, and it was getting late, and I can't tell you how Camp of the Woods feeds my soul, and has for since the 70s.
Yeah.
It was not just another family vacation. It was everything. It was growing up. It was learning relationships. It was growing in your faith. It was being old enough to go to Big Chapel and not Little Chapel anymore. And they tried to call it Peck's Landing after it was called the Teepee for 100 years. And now it's the Teepee. And like, there's just, you can't, I think everybody you've had on the podcast would probably say some version of what I just said. And this was a validation that I'm not crazy, but Camp of the Woods, when Pop Tibbets talks about a vacation on purpose, dadgummit, he's not kidding. He just crushed it in 2 words. And that was my big takeaway from the book.